Hi,
Hi,
hello.
hi. That's Colleen. I'm Orja.
Yes, that's Orja.
Yeah.
Yes, hi.
All right, Colleen, tell us about your distillery. We're starting with a distillery story.
Oh, okay. I will tell the recorded version. Yes. So I went to a distillery. There's more I can tell you later.
Okay.
Uh, but we went to a distillery. It was very fun. It's a new one that opened up not too far from me up here, actually, which is not new, over in
Mhm.
Cottleville. And it was very fun. It was nice. I drank some whiskey and was surprised at how much it actually was bourbon. And it was very smooth, which I was not expecting. So it's for my friend's birthday. So celebrated him.
That's awesome. What was the name of the distillery?
I don't remember. I think it's called Cottleville Village, but I don't know the name of the whole
Ooh,
distillery.
fun. That
It's like
reminds
this
me,
like collective.
we have a distillery that we need to go to where we can bottle
Yes,
our Book Witches whiskey. We need to get in touch with the guy. Do you still
we
have his
absolutely do.
number?
I think I have the card somewhere.
Oh, we'll have to figure it out. But yeah, folks, we are potentially going to be recording a two-part episode um or something at
Yeah.
a distillery with this wonderful man. I think his name was Steve. Don't remember. Steven.
I saw a card the other day. But yeah, I don't remember. I don't
Anyways,
remember. It's
I'll
been a while.
it's been a while, but we didn't forget about you. We're excited for that.
We're
So,
coming.
yeah, sorry everyone. I kind of just was like, we were just chatting and catching up, and then I was like, we're recording.
Yes, it's fine. We can talk later. But yeah, so we're excited. We're here. I'm very
We're here.
tired today. I was out later again at the distillery than anticipated, so I'm a little sleepy.
Yeah, I was out at karaoke. I went without my husband, but before I left, he said, if you want to have a little bit of fun and like have a bunch of drinks, just let me know and I'll come get you. And so around like 11, I was like, I need you to come pick me up at 12. And he came with
Yeah.
our puppy Jeannie and she said hi to everyone.
Oh,
It was cute, but
cute.
karaoke is really fun. Met a couple of new people at karaoke,
Oh,
who are
fun.
lovely. So, there was a couple there who was singing all show tunes, and apparently I'm the show tunes person at karaoke, apparently, which I guess I am.
You're
Not
the only
any
one that really
longer.
does them. Yeah.
Not any longer, but me and her name is Kristen, sang For Good. She sang the Galinda part, I sang the alphabet part, and it was like chills all over. It was amazing. And they were like, "Do you do musical theater?" This was like the highlight of my night. I was like, "No, I don't do musical theater." And they were like, "You should." And I was like, "Well, thank you."
Like, thank you. Thank
So,
you.
that was so yeah, I'm also a little tired. Also fun fact, we are always later than we plan when we record stuff, but today it was because
Correct.
I didn't realize that I had only read two of the three chapters until I was finishing up my chapter recap this morning. So I was like, I have a whole chapter to read still. So,
Yep.
fun times. So speaking
We've
of
all been there.
chapter recaps,
Chapter
um,
recap.
I will say, trigger warning for all sorts of horrible matter. There is going to be talk of lobotomies, which I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you need a trigger warning for that because that's not a thing that happens anymore, but trigger warning because it's horrible.
Can
Um,
be. Yeah.
and trigger warning for it's mostly just that. Eh, Trigger warning for extreme sexism also. Like
Extreme sexism. I mean, there is some description of some body gore, but I don't know if we're going to get into that or not. This book has a lot of
I'm
that.
gonna
So,
gloss over all of that. So,
okay. If you
um,
read this book and you're going along with us, that's just kind of a running theme. So just keep that in mind.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, let's go to chapter recap. As Lord Prophet Leon and so many of my esteemed predecessors in alchemy have noted, the female mind is fundamentally different from its male counterpart. As such, the treatment of the mad woman constitutes a distinct and delicate art to which I have dedicated its own section. Where the masculine mind derives contentment from mastery and accomplishment, the feminine mind derives contentment from submission. So wrong. That was my interjection. Thus, the ills of the female psyche arise from the rejection of the authorities within the subject's life and may be treated with lobotomy, the correct application of which I have outlined in the pages herein. Archmage, Lufrid, Airman, Medical Alchemy, 272 of Tiran. Chapter 13, The Alchemy of Energy. Barf.
The worst.
I hope my childish reactions help with that rough subject matter.
Help with this thing. I forgot that it happened, and I went to like listen to it today, and I like heard that was like the first line that was coming out of the section of the book, and I was like, oh,
Yeah, like,
okay.
okay. All right, that's the
Mm,
vibe of this episode.
that's what we're going with. This is great. Yeah.
Chapter 13, The Alchemy of Energy. So, Sciona has nightmares of rot following her through the library stacks and blood pouring out of the Leonid, which is their religious text. The decay is exuding from the book and from herself. She wakes up screaming, and her cousin Alba is with her trying to help. She's like, "What can I do?" And Siona's like, "There's nothing you can do. How can I stop feeling this way?" And she just keeps saying, like, you don't understand, because and Alba's agreeing, like, "You're right, I don't understand," but boy, does she not understand, because Sciona can't tell her what she's done. She can't tell her that she
Yeah.
has discovered that blight is siphoning for magic and that she killed a person. Um, and so Aunt Winnie has decided that enough is enough, and she decides to call the medical alchemist. We find out that he was the one who treated the baker's oldest son, who was a border guard, which we'll get more into later. The oldest brother still ended his life, and we find out that the medical alchemist is also entitled to apply treatment to Sciona, whether or not she accepts it if she doesn't pull herself together by the time he gets there. Treatment being, if the little excerpt in the beginning says anything, treatment being lobotomy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Alba begs Sciona to pull herself together because Sciona is the only one who can do what she does, and she's too precious. To which Sciona thinks to herself the Maedra of the Quen could do what she did, but they'd all been murdered by blight. The treatment, we learn, is lobotomy, and the medical alchemist will likely force this upon Sciona. So she finally agrees that, at the very least, she cannot let a man decide to take her mind away from her, and so she must pull herself together to meet with him. Sciona asks to speak with the medical alchemist alone in her room with her high mage's white robe on. He says some horrific things about women and their place in society, and how Sciona is ill because she's not fit for the high magistry as a woman, which we're going to get into this in deep dive. I have it's like 3 pages that I'll kind of skim through so we can digest it. Sciona brings up the baker's son, who still ended his life even though Dr. Melier, or Melier, was treating him. And she notes that if she took the same path, it would destroy the doctor's career. And she threatens to jump if he tries to treat her or tells anyone about the discussion that she's going to have with him, or tries to call her family to intervene. She's like, "You do one single thing, I'm jumping, and your career will be over. So sit there and talk to me."
Take it. You're
Yeah.
gonna do it.
Okay. Put properly in his place, Dr. Melier serves as a sounding board, although a very poor and close-minded one, for Sciona as she discusses a way to get through what she's discovered and done. Sciona is able to suss out a way to move forward. She has to take her feelings and her energy and transmute them into action. Something must be done about what she's discovered, and she realizes that she must get Tomo back to do so. He's the only really intelligent man she's ever worked with other than Brigham. She's like, Dr. Melier is like not up to the standards, and then she's like, "No, I've forgotten, working with Tomo all these months, that none of the men in the magistry have ever been up to the standard. Tomo is the only one who I can have these discussions with." Which
Mm-hmm.
is, yeah. Um, so she realizes that she needs to go and apologize to Tomo and try to talk to him and find out like a path forward. That's the only way to get through this. Chapter 14, Cold the Crossing. The immigrant Quen's greatest vice, graver in my estimation than his predisposition to sloth, slow-wittedness, and addiction, is his slavish attachment to the primitive culture of his origin. Slavish attachment to the primitive culture of his origin. In this treatise, I will enumerate my criticisms of contemporary Quen integration policies, namely their focus on housing and employing Quen without instilling in them the moral virtues that give rise to industrious life. The only Quen who can hope to responsibly handle gainful employment or civilized living quarters is the one who has first committed himself to good tyrannish ideals. By contrast, the Quen who holds the ways of the wild is a wretched creature, a curse unto himself and others. I have in my heart tremendous pity for the lonely and prospectless Quen who cannot assimilate, and I believe we do him no favors by allowing him to persist in his backward ways. Archmage, Thuredes, or in Hell, a treatise on the compassionate assimilation of Quen peoples, 284 of Tiran. These excerpts just get more horrific as the book goes on.
It's significantly worse. Oh yeah.
So bad. Oh my goodness. Okay, chapter 14, Cold the Crossing. I say in my game show voice for really, really serious subject matter. Sciona makes her way to
This is
the
a rough chunk.
It's a rough
It's a
chunk.
really rough
This is
chunk.
like I'm just like disassociate dissociating?
Disassociating?
Disassociating. There's an extra syllable in there. I'm just disassociating. It's fine. We're fine. Sciona makes her way to the bakery and orders blueberry scones from Ansel, the baker's son, for Tamil because she thinks about how she never once asked him what he'd like when she brought baked goods in, but she noticed that he always took the blueberry scones. So she's like, I'm gonna bring him a basket of blueberry scones to apologize for the horrible things I've done. That'll help Sciona,
Kill
sure.
and make good.
She asks she asks Ansel about his older brother, Karseth, and why he ended his life. We find out that Karseth was a border guard who was a happy, sweet man until he took his orders. Karseth came back after 6 months with nightmares and trauma, and Sciona manages to get Ansel to tell her what the brother said to his family, though it is highly sensitive and top secret information. We find out that Karseth saw people being mutilated while trying to cross the border, and that he saw other guards toss people back outside of the border who were too badly hurt, or if the Quen camps were at capacity as well. Karseth said he couldn't do that, but he ultimately also couldn't live with what he'd seen, and this is the piece that Sciona needed to finally put the plan together. So, like, although Ansel doesn't know what he's confirming for Sciona that the crossing is indeed the reserve. The coordinates line up.
Mm-hmm.
Sciona makes her way to the Quen Quarter and walks to Tamil's apartment. She got his address from the university's staff records. Tamil opens the door and tries to slam it in Sciona's face, but she wedges herself in the door and begs him to listen to her. Tamil is rightfully extremely unhappy to see her and tells her that she has no right to come find him, but she begs him to hear her out and apologizes for the things that she said to him, which were also horrific. He lets her in, and they
Mm-hmm.
discuss how at least one other mage in history discovered what they had, Sabernin. He used his discovery to murder his rivals. However, he didn't have a clear picture like Sciona did, and so he um, ended up killing, like, one of the horrors of his whole thing was that he killed a bunch of innocent people in addition to the ones he was targeting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because he didn't have a clear picture, so he couldn't see what the energy sources were. He was just using the coordinates for the location that he knew his rivals were
Mm-hmm.
in. Sciona also confirms that the crossing that Tamil's tribe went through was indeed the coordinates of the reserve for Tiran. His whole tribe died because of the reserve siphoning that they were forced to cross. They then discuss whether or not the other high mages and even archmages know what they know. Sciona decides that she's going to go to Brigham with her discovery once more. He didn't lie. He couldn't have lied to her. He doesn't lie to her when he said that it was a curse, so he must not know. Tamil does not agree with Sciona, and he thinks that this is a bad move. He's like, mages are cruel, and you are an amazing mage, but you cannot be one of two. Like, there can't be just two of you who have discovered this horrific knowledge. And on the chance that the other mages know that this is where magic comes from, they're not Like, you can't go to them and tell them that you've discovered this secret. What do you think they're going to do to you? And she's like, no, it's not possible. Brigham would never hold something like that from me. He would never lie to me when I was like telling him what I had seen. Like, I need to do something, and I need to also like I need to know who knows. Her thing is like
Hmm.
they don't know, but I also need to know who knows, which is smart. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah. Enter Kara, who she like walks in and she's like, Uncle Tomo, and Tomo's like, this is my daughter, like the little slip up. And Tomo
Mhm.
admits to Sciona that he had to lie and claim Kara as his daughter when they arrived so that they wouldn't be separated and or thrown back across the border. And Sciona realizes with a good amount of guilt and shock that Tomo is actually scared that she will out him. She's like, I won't tell anyone.
Mhm.
What good would it do me to tell anyone? Like, I would never tell anyone. Your secret is safe. Then Kara tries to kill Sciona. She has a conversation with Sciona, goes into the kitchen, and then all of a sudden Tomo goes, Kara, no! And Sciona looks up and Kara's like holding a knife above her. I know I shouldn't be laughing at this. It's a little funny.
She's also like 12 or 13.
12 or
Like
13, she's very young. Yeah.
she's young.
Yeah.
Still.
So, Tomo stops her. He's able to stop her. She has a lot of anger in her, and she cannot believe that Tomo has decided to trust a high mage, let alone a Tirish woman. However, Tomo insists that she cannot do anything as stupid as try to attack Sciona. Sciona is shaken, but understands the child's anger, especially once she realizes that Tomo has shared their discovery with her. She was as incredulous as we all were. She was like, she knows?
The child.
Yeah, yeah. So Tama argues again with Sciona, telling her that even if the archmages don't know that siphoning is blight, they don't see Quen as humans. So her plan to like be like, did you know that we're killing humans? Now that I have a clear picture, we cannot kill humans. He's like, they don't view us as humans. So like even
Mhm.
if you present that plan to them, they're not gonna be like, oh no, we should stop murdering Quen. They don't view us as humans in the first place.
Mhm.
Sciona says she has to try. After Sciona leaves, tells Kara that she has to think before she acts and that what she did was very rash. Kara argues that Tomo is in the wrong for trusting Sciona. However, Tomo says that a great hunter doesn't hunt by acting without thinking. They wait and observe and plan their attack before executing it. Tomo then tells Kara that Sciona can be trusted and that she's hope. She's proven that a person can change their mind, and that means maybe others can as well. Chapter 15, The Truth. Dun dun dun. It feels
Whoa.
like we've gotten a lot of truth already, but this one really is the truth.
Yeah. Yes, it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Children who seek truth, look to your fathers. Women who seek truth, look to your husbands. Barf. Servants who seek truth, look to your masters. Triple barf. All who seek truth, look to the mages, for God makes his wisdom known on their lips and his will known in their work. The Tiricid Conduct, verse 19, 56 of Tiran. Chapter 15, The Truth. All of that is so horrific. I'm gonna take a sip of
Icky.
coffee. Are you wearing the dress that we both have?
Yes, I am.
Nice.
Yes, I wore it this morning.
I
And I
love
was like,
it.
well, it looks nice, so I'm going to continue. But yes, I am.
We
I'm
both
very
have this
trapped. I
dress.
have my botanical tattoo, and then my earrings are also plants, and my
Beautiful.
top is plants.
Okay, chapter 15, The Truth. Traveling through Tiran back to the High Magistry, is horrible. Sciona knows that the very train she's on, the lights they pass by, every spark and flash of magic is blight wiping out living beings and likely other humans as well. She decides not to take the magic lift upon her arrival at the High Magistry. The train runs whether she's on it or not, but the lift sits in disuse unless someone specifically uses it. So she takes the stairs instead to get to Bringham's office. Brigham clears his office and tells Sciona that he's been expecting her. Sciona sits and tells Brigham everything that she has done and seen and learned, ending with the fact that she knows she wasn't using a cursed spellograph and that blight really is siphoning. And then I have an excerpt to read. Whew.
Oh, cool.
Oh dear, I should have known you were too smart. What? Sciona whispered, ragged from anticipation. To believe the cursed explanation, I thought I could give you some time, let you ease into the truth after Farron's Eve, but I should have known you'd only buy it until you'd calmed down enough to have a good think. Siona's like, I didn't buy it at all.
Yeah, she's like, I never did. What do you mean?
Brigham tells Thyona that she was correct and he should not have insulted her intelligence with a cover story, that the subject is not something that they talk about in the High Magistry. Brigham goes on to explain that God never intended man to perceive the truth, and so he bid Leon to compose the mapping spells with the guards in them, and then he bid Farron to fix those lines in the sacred canon that barred one from
Mhm.
having a clear picture. And he goes on to say that to talk about where magic comes from is in poor taste. Sciona pushes ahead, though her entire world has crumbled before her eyes. She wants Brigham to say that it's not true, but it is horrifically, extremely true, and everything Tamil has said about mages not viewing Quen as humans is correct. Sciona argues that God could not have ordered the creation of a city at such a cost because no good God would, but Brigham repeats that it is not up to them to understand God's reason, even saying that the Quen were given the choice to join but refused and brought blight about on themselves. Sciona says that her new mapping spell could help them avoid murder. And then I have another note. Sciona, Brigham said, and she knew from his wary, apologetic tone that she was being rejected. Your compassion does you credit as a woman, but you must see that it's not realistic. Even if we were to direct magic away from human beings, Tiran must still feed on life in the form of plants and animals. The savages of Quen are still living on borrowed time on that land that cannot sustain them. It was the same argument Tamil had made, that direct siphoning was only half the reason the people beyond the barrier were struggling. Only Brigham phrased it as though the decline of the Quen was a fated inevitability, not the result of human decisions. This is the price the Quen pay for their heresy. 300 years ago, Sciona said, 300 years ago, a few Quen leaders, a dozen at most, refused to convert to a new religion and move into their conqueror's city as servants. Those people are all dead now. Everyone who could have had any part in that decision is dead. But the decision to blight the Quen, to siphon, is a choice we make every day. How is it holy to steal life from people who've never had a chance to convert, who've never knowingly slighted our God, who've never even laid eyes on Tiran? To which Brigham replies, evil begets evil. Barf, barf, barf. Sciona says that God doesn't bring about blight, humans do, Tyrans do. Brigham then throws a curveball and tells Sciona that she's thinking too logically about this. She's like, what? I wrote
Mhm.
she's about to have another mentee bee because God is right? Because
Yeah,
God
yeah.
is beyond mortal logic, says Brigham. You're being too logical because God is beyond mortal logic. And she's like, everything I have learned and worked towards and been taught to believe is that like logic and the pursuit of truth is the highest, holiest like thing. And you're telling me that this is the line? Like right now, this is like, no, let's just look it over. He is, folks. That is what he's telling her.
Correct.
Brigham then spews more religious mumbo jumbo at Sciona in a very condescending manner to get her to calm down and justify magic and its cost, and then tells her that many told him a woman would be too soft for this revelation and that she should not prove them right. Sciona agrees because she told Tamil that she would go along with it to keep herself safe, but she inwardly steels herself and decides that she will indeed show the mages of Tiran something they've not seen before. She's going to show them hellfire. We don't know what that means yet, but we're excited.
Excited.
As we're excited. As Sciona leaves, she mulls over Brigham's words and decides that even God shouldn't be above judgment for some things. She's gone full heretic. Jaren Wardra stops her in the hall and apologizes to her for the things he said, which Sciona can't honestly even remember. And he's like, I'm sorry if I had known that you were having such a hard time, I wouldn't have been so mean to you. And she's like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. She then tells him that if he thinks he's a good person, he should ask his father to pull some strings and get him a job elsewhere. As she sweeps out of the building, fire fills the void. She's up to something, and that's where we end. So unlike the others, we don't
Fancy.
end on we end on a high for these chapters, which is nice. Like, a lot of devastating
Yes.
stuff happens, but we end on Sciona being like, oh, I'll show them. So, excited
She's
for
like, I
that.
got a plan ready.
Yeah,
Yes.
excited for that.
Which we know
Um,
what that plan is, and goodness.
it's glorious, honestly.
It is no, it was way more than I imagined at this point in the story. So it is
Yeah,
worth the continuation of reading it, I promise.
it truly
Um,
is. Do
yeah,
you want to hop into section superlatives?
we can.
Section
Ooh,
superlatives. Drama queen of the section.
yeah.
I'm gonna say Kara. And this is not an insult because her feelings are valid. But girl, you're just gonna jump up and murder a high mage in your apartment. What's next?
Yeah, what are you gonna do with it? Like, you can't. Her logic is not her strong suit. You know, it's fine. It's passion, which is very Calviny. But
Yes. Thomas like,
yeah,
Kara, you can't do this. Come
he's.
on.
I'm. I'm sure in his head he's like, "Where in the parenting book did I go wrong? This is happening.
Yeah, he's like, what
Like,
have
what
I
did I
done?
do?"
Tom L, where you went wrong was telling her the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, that is not something to
Correct. Yeah.
burden that child with.
No. No. Not even close.
No. I mean, obviously she deserves to know the truth, but like, not that way.
There's ways to tell her, and you also need to process the information before you tell her, so
Yeah,
you can put it in a way that is digestible for her, and not just like, "Ugh, here you go,
exactly.
word vomit. Here are my
Exactly.
emotions." Yeah.
Um, who do you think drama queen is?
I was honestly trying to think. I feel like anytime Brigham is anywhere, he is just because he's just so
He is the
like
drama. Yeah.
he's very like in my mind he's like Professor Lockhart. When he walks into a room, everything just kind of like flutters around him. Like he has a spell on his cape to like flutter
That's
when he enters the
so
room. Like that's
funny.
how I envision him. So like I don't think he's necessarily being dramatic, but like he as a person feels very flouncy and dramatic to me.
I love that. That's so funny. I
Hmm.
don't disagree with you. I do think that he is like
Yeah.
he has a dramatic flair somehow.
Yes, he does. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, he's technically a like textile designer, but like a fashion designer, so I'm sure that's part of where that envisioning's coming in. But
Yeah, for
yes,
sure.
yeah.
And then craziest thing to happen.
I didn't think that Brigham knew when I read this the first time, to be honest with you. So that shocked me. Not like overly, but I didn't think he knew to the extent that he seemed to. I thought he like knew they were taking from the Quinlands kind of thing, similar to Sciona, but maybe not that it was just like, eh, murder happens.
Yeah. I don't know if I have a most shocking thing. I think we've discussed this before, but like I had a
Mhm.
sinking feeling about Brigham the very first time we met him,
Yeah.
where I was like, this is too good to be true. So like when he was like the truth, he revealed the truth, I was like, yeah, I was really disappointed, but it didn't surprise me at all, if
Yeah,
that makes sense. I was just
that's
like,
fair. Mhm.
damn it. Um, but I guess the lobotomy thing was pretty shocking for me. And
That's fair.
I
Yeah.
did gloss over it a lot in the chapter recap, but it's like it's so real from like a historical perspective. It's like women women who want more than to be a wife and a mother are hysterical, and we just need to fix them
Mhm.
by taking their minds away, essentially, or literally actually.
Yes.
um and that just like it was so casual, and the doctor was so firm in his belief that it was just the correct thing, and to see
Yeah.
that, I think like we often see it in a perspective of like a woman who is a little helpless and powerless in the situation and can't. So like it's always presented in like a really sinister way. And it's still very sinister here, but Sciona like puts this man in his place and is like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
well, if you want to take my mind away, then I'm just gonna die instead. Like I don't exist without my mind, so I'm just gonna make myself not exist and destroy your career in the process. If that's the path you want to take, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
like
Yes. Yeah. No,
I've
she very much has the power in this
yeah.
situation.
So that whole thing was like very crazy. That was crazy for me. In a good
Mm-hmm.
way. I'm
Very
so
fair.
proud of Siona for that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's time to take a stroll on over to Colleen's Corner.
My corner. Um, I had a couple of things that have just been swimming around in my mind, and I couldn't really quite figure out which one I wanted to go for. And the one that just kept cropping up for me, and like the language is very intentional. I I struggle with Sayona as a character so much because of how she treats people. I hate it. I hate it deeply. Like she's very smart, she's very intelligent. She is awful to almost everyone. Like she is not very kind. And like the thing that
Agreed.
bugged me a lot, like I struggled with her as a character, um, because she calls everyone simple, and I hate it. Like especially when she was talking about the baker and the brother or whatever, she's like, "Well, I mean, if this simple man can figure it out," and I'm like, "You're not as smart as you think you are." Like
Yeah.
she keeps stumbling because she truly thinks she's smarter than everyone else. And like even like with that's what Tomal is like trying to tell her. He's like, I know you're smart. Kara's like, you're not that smart. Like everyone in her life is like, you are not as smart as you think you are. I'm so sorry. Like she's incredibly intelligent. I'm not stating that or diminishing her intelligence, but I struggle so much with how she treats people and the way that
Mm-hmm.
she interacts with them. Like Tom was interestingly one of the few people that she actually views as human.
Yes.
Like
That's
in
so
this whole
true.
thing. Yeah. Anywho, I deeply resent her for calling. Like, I don't know, just because like the bakers, they're wonderful and they're not dumb. Like they may not be.
No.
I resent people who think that just because someone else is not as educated as them, because of whether they didn't have the same access or different things, are dumb. They're not.
Mm-hmm.
They're not dumb. They're not simple. Like it bugs me very deeply, and I don't like
I
that
think
intellectualism.
I think that you intellectualism, that's yeah, I think that's a good word for it. I think that you touch on a really interesting point because that again, I mean, that exists in our world too, where I
Yes.
mean, even just the term of like uneducated, right? You call
Mm-hmm.
people uneducated because they don't have a college degree or they only went to high school or like whatever. And,
Whatever.
or
Yeah.
they like dropped out of high school. You call people uneducated when they don't have the level of like academic education that you think is good. And it's such
Should be.
a
Yeah.
horrible way to describe someone because you're taking one tiny piece of their
Mm-hmm.
entire everything and being like, well, they don't have this one tiny, tiny thing. And so they're dumb.
Yes, and I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it deeply. I will also state so I have many degrees at this point. Like
Hmm.
I am considered a well-educated person. Um, from that standpoint, I come from a very blue collar background and family where a lot of members of my family were like back back when didn't even graduate high school. Like they dropped out in like eighth grade
Hmm.
because that was as far as they could go, kind of thing. And so I've always like when I went to college was the first time I really had met those types of people in my life because I just wasn't raised around the like intellectual elitism thing.
Uh-huh.
It's because it was the first time I had met people that their parents and their grandparents and their great grandparents had probably all went to college. And I was like, oh, there it is. It was a very interesting like culture shock
Yeah.
that for me to navigate. It was interesting, and not that like having a long lineage of education can make you that way. There are people that navigate it just fine.
Yeah.
Um, but it can be, and like historically, way back in my family, that was more of a thing. Just World War II and things, make it hard for
For
people.
sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but I really hate it, and like this book, one of the reasons I almost didn't finish it was because I remember getting to this point where like Siona's like, I'm gonna go help people. And like I think in my mind, I wanted her to like she's like, oh, I care for people. I wanted her to expand that to everyone. And she
Mhm.
just refused, and it bugs me deeply.
That's fair. No, I think that she definitely she sets limits for herself because she refuses to acknowledge the fact that there's different kinds of intelligence. I mean, even with
Mm-hmm.
Tamil, she is regarding him as an intelligent person. Well, it's not the same kind of intelligence that she has. There is overlap. He does have a very scientific mind, that's true. But he has none of the education that she does, and he is so able to keep up with her because he is intelligent. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I think that if she gave, I'm not saying she should give Alba or Aunt Winnie the chance to like meet her there, you know. They have their own oppression to deal with, but like if she gave people the chance to discuss with her, she might be surprised. I do think, I do agree with her that Dr. Melier is an idiot. I do
That's different.
agree. I do
Yes.
agree with her that the men in the High Magistry who have all of this education and are totally brainwashed are not the most intelligent people because they are completely brainwashed. Not totally their faults, but also at that point in time they are contributing to it knowingly. Um so
Yes.
like but the fact that she already considers them not her equal, and then everyone below that is, yeah, just dumb. It's just a really short-sighted view
Mm-hmm.
of the world. I agree with you.
Yeah. Yes. That is. I maybe I'm stating this because I am fully aware that a lot of the times when I talk about Sayona, I talk about her very harshly. This is one of the reasons because I
Yes.
struggle with it a lot. Like to me, how you treat people, and like Lord knows I am not good at it. I am a girly who gets into a lot of arguments with people, particularly men. Like I am aware I'm not a perfect person. I definitely know I have had similar thoughts, but I try not to. If that makes sense, I put in an
Yeah.
effort. She does not care. She doesn't even see that it's a problem. She thinks this is how it works.
What the hell, Joel? Did you hear that?
No.
He just like aired out a trash bag really loudly. And when I looked at him, he had this look on his face like,
Love that.
look at that smirk. What a smirk. Okay, anyways, back to the point. Um,
Anyhow, this is more me just stating this is why I'm as harsh as I am on her, and I'm not necessarily planning on going any easier.
I
So,
don't think
that's
you
why.
should apologize for it, and I
Yeah,
think that your feelings are very valid. She is an incredibly
yeah.
flawed main character, and she's
Which
supposed
is
to be.
good, but she is
Yeah.
supposed to be. She's written this way, and that's the point. And
Yeah.
like we get more into that later. This is kind of actually like a preface to where we really get into it
Yes.
a lot
Oh
later.
my God, I'm so
But
excited. Yeah.
and so it is addressed in the book, which I liked,
Mm-hmm.
but it is like a hard pill to swallow as you're reading it
It is.
sometimes.
It
It
is.
doesn't bother everybody, but it is something that bothers me.
I was talking to my mom yesterday, who apparently
Yeah.
is two things. Side note, so she is listening to the season, which I thought she wasn't, because she hasn't read the
Oh,
book. But she, similar to your mom, was like, I think your chapter recaps give you a gist of the story. She was like, I don't want to read
mhm.
it because it sounds really hard to read. I was like, you're correct. It's very hard to read,
Correct.
but she's been enjoying it.
Yeah.
But she said that I apologized to her for something on the maybe like last episode or the one before, and she something
Yeah.
about like holding in communication. I don't remember what it was. I honestly, she was telling me this, and I was like, I don't remember what I apologized for. I'm sorry, but she was like, it was nice to hear you apologize for that finally, and I was like, oh, I was like, oh, okay,
You're like,
well, whatever
oh,
I apologize for, I apologize again. I was like, does that
yeah, like
count?
I
She
meant
was just
that.
laughing at me.
Like I
So
did mean it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
mother, once again, still don't remember what it was I apologize for, but I apologize and I love you.
yes. Very funny.
That was a side note. Sorry for
Um,
taking us away. But
uh,
yeah, no, you're she's really enjoying this season, and she was like, I love that you guys are being so serious. She thinks that this is our best season yet. So,
it's almost serious, but you can't be. How do you be like, oh, when all of this is happening? There's like not really. it's not a great point of levity in these. Like, we
No,
can't, even if we wanted to.
it's true.
I mean, I guess we could, but it would be very insensitive.
We can
So
just
we're not going
disassociate. It's fine.
to. Honestly, sometimes reading this, I have to. Like, you're just sitting there and you're like, I have to be in like a good mental
You're
state for
being
these.
so loud. Did you have anything else to add for your corner?
No, that's about it. It's mostly just my rain on Sciona. That's
Cool.
it.
Love
So,
it. All right. Well, let's head on over to deep dive then. All
okay.
right. I wanted to open this by it's going to be a wild ride because it's like 5 pages, but I want to read a little bit of the interaction with Dr. Mellier, Mellier,
Melier.
with
I
Mellier.
think it's Melier. Yeah.
I think it's gotta be, yeah.
I'm almost
Um,
certain it's Melier.
I'm pretty sure. So, because it's just so good. I think like the reason to root for Sciona is really evident in this interaction with the doctor.
It is.
She is not, I
Yeah.
don't think you're supposed to like her, but you still root for her somehow, if that makes sense.
Like, she's still better than that guy.
Yeah.
Like, she sucks in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. She's not completely. I'm aware, but he sucks all the way, all of
Yeah,
it.
he does.
Yeah.
Okay, so she is like in her room and she says, have a seat, and she waits for him to sit down. And then instead of sitting on the bed like a patient should, she strides to the open window and perches on the sill. And he's like, what are you doing? And she said, what are you doing? Melier started to rise, but Sciona held up a warning hand. One step, and I'll throw myself onto the street. All color drained from Melier's face. You'll what? You know from my auntie that I'll do it. She must have told you I had to be physically stopped from jumping earlier. You may be able to save me, but only if you do as I say. Miss Freynan, please. You treated what's his name, didn't you? Who? You know, Sciona gestured vaguely in frustration. The baker's first son, Ansel's older brother, the barrier guard. And he's like, oh, Karsith, she said, that's the one. He jumped to his death during the course of your treatments, didn't he? If that was, is that what this is about, Miss Freynan? Was he a close friend of yours, a paramour? Melier must have missed the way Sciona choked, nearly laughing aloud, because he pressed on in absolute earnest. Please understand that there was nothing I could do for him. When I met him, he was too far gone to be saved. I don't care about that, Sciona snapped. I bring it up because I doubt your reputation can afford another dead patient, let alone a high mage. As the words sink in, Melier drops back into the chair. Here's the part that I was like, yes, bravo. That's better, Sciona said. Stand up again and you'll have a dead patient. Call for my family and you'll have a dead patient. Interrupt me and you'll have a dead patient. Understood? Yes, miss, he says, and she goes, it's not miss, it's high mage, Sciona snapped. Try that again. And he like forcing him to call her high mage. She's like, I am at a higher level than you are, sir. So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Oh yeah.
and then yeah, so like basically she's talking to him and she's like, I need another advanced magic practitioner to sit right there and let me talk through this conundrum mage to mage until I have my reasoning straight. If this conversation goes well, I'll sing your praises to anyone who asks, but breathe a word of what I say here outside this room and I will end your career. Do we understand each other? And he's like, okay, fine. And then he goes, but once I've made my diagnosis, you must let me treat you. So she's like, so you don't understand. He says, it is my job to provide a solution for you, Miss High Mage. You may be immensely talented in the field of energy sourcing, but the greatest of mages are not immune to the evils of the mind. And he's basically like, you're, with respect to your brilliance, you're not stable. She goes, no, I'm not stable. But let me pose you a question that's been troubling me for hours. Must I forego brilliance? No, not even brilliance. Must I forego any sort of intelligence? Must I forego the baseline mental functions that come with being alive for stability? What is the point of stability, doctor? What is the point of anything? He says to fulfill your God given role as a woman, of course, to be positive and pleasing presence to others, your husband, your family. She says, except that I'm not anyone's wife, nor am I anyone's daughter, really, and I've never been very good at pleasing. The things I have to offer are greater than that. And I'm going to keep reading. Again, like this is a wild ride. It's a bunch of pages and I'm kind of skimming. So he says, this is a classic example of how dangerous it is for a female to pursue a career like yours. It's understandable with a mind as great as yours that you have aspirations beyond your sex, but the scientific truth is that these pursuits unsettle your mind and defy your nature. Do they defy my nature, Doctor? It was an honest question. As far as Sciona could remember from the first time she had grasped the concept of magical power, her academic aspirations had been the crux of her being. All I know is that if you make me a stable woman now, Doctor, you destroy me. You destroy any chance at salvation. And then, like, so she's basically like getting him to the base point of like, lobotomy is not the answer for me because it will destroy who I am, not help me. That's just the basis of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the part that I think is really cool. So she's like, shut up and talk this over with me. Like, we're not talking about my diagnosis. We're talking about theory
Yes.
here. We're talking about magic. And so she's like,
Mm-hmm.
you're an alchemist. Your job is to turn matter from something into something else. But what makes you think that feelings are matter? Because they're not matter. So you can't turn them into something else. That's why lobotomy is not going to work on me. You can't turn my feelings into something else. You have to think of it as energy work, which is what I am experienced in. And she's like, at the base of what I do, I take the energy from one thing to do something else, to like turn it into an action. And so, why not go against everything that we're taught in our religious texts and say that my feelings are energy, not matter? And so, they can't be turned into something else. They have to be transmuted into something else. They have to go from energy to energy, not matter to matter,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is very brilliant. And then that's the gist of it. One more thing, like one more like zinger from Sciona. So he's like, on the contrary, High Mage, I think. And she goes, no, that's the problem, Doctor, Sciona said in frustration. You don't really think anything because you don't listen. You're not taking the information coming out of my mouth and processing it. You haven't seriously engaged a single question I've posed. All you seem capable of doing is bludgeoning me with textbooks, ones I've already read, I might add. So for now, you just listen while I do the thinking. And he goes, that's not, and she goes, not your strong suit, I understand. But don't worry. I'll start with the terms of your discipline so you're not confused. Boy, does she hand it to him. Um,
She does. He's not great. I don't like him. In this instance, I was like, go Sciona. Go. I remember
yes.
at first being like, man, she's being really combative, but like again, we didn't know what was to come. She knew what was to come, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And I was like, oh man, like. And then he started talking, and I was like, go girl.
Yeah,
No
go for
concerns.
it.
Yeah.
I think that
Yes.
this is
Yeah.
like a shining beacon of the good that Sciona can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted to, I just really wanted to read it because it like, this book is heavy and
Yeah.
it's hard. And this section of the book, I was like, yes, so
It's one of the
happy.
few that feels triumphant. It is, I think, kind of a shift
Mm-hmm.
to a kind of maybe more triumphant trajectory that we kind of rocket towards. Not completely,
Yeah,
but there's. I think it's not. We're not stuck in this despair pit with Sciona anymore.
correct, correct.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to, especially after your corner where we talked about how she views other people and all of that, I just wanted to really highlight like
Mm-hmm.
when she can use her powers for good. She mostly
Yeah.
uses them not evil, but for not good, I would say. The
Mm-hmm.
powers of her
Yeah.
mind, she uses it selfishly and
Mm-hmm.
without regard for other people. But this is like the one instance where she uses it for good, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because
She is not
poor
wholly good or
character.
bad. She is a balance. She's a real person. She's a real
Yeah.
character. We're not all one or the other, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, just wanted to drop that there for the deep dive. I don't think we even have much to discuss. I just really wanted to celebrate her in that moment.
No, no, she does a good job. She is very good at which she's trained in that. Like, I mean, that's what she's done her whole life. She's very good at looking at men who view her as unintelligent and explaining to them, or I mean, unintelligent probably is the right word, and explaining to them, like, no, 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 no. I'm not simple. I'm not the simple thing that she thinks everyone else is. I'm not simple. I know what I'm talking about. Let me break this down for you.
Yeah.
You're actually the simple one. Let me break it down so you understand what I'm trying to say to you.
Yeah.
Um, she's trained very well in
She
that,
is trained very
and it
well.
shows in this interaction.
It
Yeah.
does. I also think that the whole interaction also really, like, just for context of the world that we live in, why people are the way they
Mhm.
are, why they act the way they do. Dr. Melier's whole, like, spiel about, like, women's place and the reason that she feels unwell, is just, like, it's so.
And it's
Say hi.
Jamie.
Say hi. Oh, puppy girl. But yeah, I think that that was, the conversation is just very, like, I guess, enlightening. Because
Mhm.
you know that Tiran is like an extremely sexist, oppressive, racist, sexist, oppressive, like,
Mhm.
city. But I think, like, it's not the point mostly. For because we're going from
Yeah.
Sciona, right? It's not the point mostly. So I
Mhm.
think they're like having this moment to really like put a pin in the map and be like, this is where we are. This is the oppression.
Yeah.
I think that's like kind of important, especially for what happens and the revelations that we
Yeah.
get further on in the
I
book.
agree. Yes. Yeah, it grounds you in, like, we know she's fighting against a lot. We've known that, but I think showing how much this
Yeah,
really puts that into perspective. Yeah.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what else would you like to talk about? Because there is a lot.
There is a lot. Trying to think of the, like, what, like, breezing through. I mean, in theory, the Brigham stuff probably should be
I mean, we can
discussed.
definitely
I
talk
mean,
about that.
they know. They all know. We've
They
touched
all
on it,
know.
but
Yeah.
they all know. Like, and I, yeah, she's just like, she cannot. I think it's really interesting how much she argues with Tommel and being like, they can't know. Because if
Yeah.
I fell apart knowing this, they had to have fallen apart knowing this, and they wouldn't be able to continue. And he's like, I really don't think you're getting it. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think you understand,
Yeah.
really. And she's like, no, no. Which I do think there's some more we learn about Brigham later that puts that into more context. That I do think Tom Wolfe should have told her before she went and confronted him, but that's a whole other
Yeah.
discussion that
No,
we can
I
get to
agree.
later when that
We'll get to
information
later,
comes up.
yeah. Yeah,
But
I think also just the whole aspect of, like, it's interesting that they bring up, well, it's like, we don't talk about it, but also we all thought that you were not going to be able to take this revelation, so you weren't told about it, sort of thing. I
mhm,
think it's interesting that, so the men all know, and they're lying to themselves. They're the soft ones.
correct. Well, they think that because of which is not uncommon in traditional American masculinity that's been taught that like emotions and compassion is weakness. And
Hmm.
that very clearly is in this book of like being a
Hmm.
compassionate. And so that's why he's like, oh, you're too soft for this because the strength of a lot of women, even in is that compassion and willingness to push forward and to change things kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they view that as a weakness because apparently anger is not an emotion, so they can have that one, but they can't have
No,
anything
anger is
else.
totally fine. It's not an emotion.
Not at all. It's not an irrational emotion.
It's not a hysterical response.
No, which I do think, as a general rule in society, we are moving more past that. That's a little
Yeah.
bit more of an antiquated thing, but it is
Yeah.
something to keep in mind. Um, but yes, yeah, it's very clear that to them, emotional intelligence is a weakness.
Yeah, it is. Um, Speaking of Brigham and all of this stuff, like, we know we've talked about like the religious aspect where it's like it's a little
Mhm.
more, it's like almost like a cult just because it is just this one city full of extremely brainwashed people, and
Yes,
technically all religions are cults according to sociology. Um,
according to sociology, not
yes,
saying I know
not
that's a weird definition,
saying,
but fine.
we're not saying that. We're saying according to
Yeah,
sociology. Um,
it's just the way that they
but
categorize them. Yeah.
yeah. But I think, like, I guess I'll amend my prior statement that it didn't shock me. Peeling back the layers of how deep of an understanding,
Mhm.
they don't just know, they like know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they have through generations of like religious fanaticism, essentially, brainwashed
Mhm.
themselves into thinking that this is the right way and that there's nothing wrong
Mhm.
because God wouldn't let them do it if it was wrong, sort of thing. And for Sciona
Which
to
is
like just
complicated.
so immediately be like, well, I guess I'm a heretic. You know, like
Yeah.
I just it's just so interesting the different ways that the different reactions that we have and like the depth of the knowledge of this. It's like it's a conspiracy.
It
Is it,
is.
you
Yeah.
know,
I think
um
from her perspective, I think the way that she views the religion is vastly different than what which we know already, like that's been
yeah.
established, but the way that she views God and the way that like she thinks that this should be interpreted or like put into practice is vastly different from any of her colleagues.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah, I
she's like,
agree.
yeah.
I agree. And then let's talk about oh, I just want to touch on like how the chapter ends. She like runs into Jaren
Mm.
Mordra, who's like this slightly incompetent legacy mage who
Yeah.
clearly doesn't know yet either. Like they haven't told the new mages yet. Um,
Yeah.
and he like, you know, he's not great, but he very sweetly apologizes. Like he feels true regret for
Mm-hmm.
causing her any distress, and he like does the right thing and apologizes to her. I think it's funny that she like doesn't even remember what he said. I don't even remember what he said to her.
No.
She's like, you literally don't matter to me. But I think
Which is like great.
it's a market difference in how she treats those around her. When she's like, do you think you're a good person? And he says, I want to hope I am. And she was like, I'd like to think I am too. And then she's like, you should get out of here. Like she actually makes it a
Mm-hmm.
point to care enough about his soul to be like, you don't be a part of this. I'm not going to give you any hard facts as to why, but if you want to think you're a good person, get out of here. um
Yeah.
and we don't know, but we do know, she struggles with this new change where she's like starting to care about people, actually starting to care about what happens to
Yeah.
people. She doesn't do it well, but it is definitely like this is the change in trajectory. She has to start caring about
Mm-hmm.
people because she realizes that not caring about people and being selfish can lead to mass murder. And she's like, that's not me. I can't do that.
Yes. Yeah. She is learning how to be more emotionally intelligent than she is,
Mhm.
and she's not perfect at it, but she's at least trying, which is more than most people around her,
Yes.
which we give her credit for.
We
Yes.
do. We do. And I think that that's also like Tomo can see that. So when he tells Kara that she's hope, it's not in this she's the chosen one, the quote unquote the hope of the whatever. It's like she's hope simply because she has seen that she was wrong and she is trying to change, sort of
Yeah, which
thing.
is more than generations have done.
Yeah, correct.
So,
Do you want to talk about that little scene with Kara and Sciona?
oh, where she almost stabbed her? He can. I
So
like it's not. It's like it's not funny, but it's just so like it is. I mean, we're laughing at because it's just so like kind of what absurd. I guess
it
maybe
is absurd.
almost. It's yeah, like it's just
Out
so
of the blue.
unexpected. Maybe
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like especially because they're just having such a normal conversation, and like so I listened to this book, and like the way that they have Tommel's voice in this, he is not panicked. He just goes, "Oh, Kara, no." Like it's the most monotone reaction, and he's just like, "Kara, you can't do that."
He's like, "Oh
Like
God, not this. This is too
he's
far
like,
now."
he's like, "No, oh no." Like I'm picturing him just having all of his parenting mistakes just absolutely running through his mind. It has to.
Yes, it must. It must.
Yeah. Hmm.
And he's just like, I mean, I also think it's really funny. Like, Kara is like, she's surprised that Siona's there, right? And so,
Hmm.
like, that's the awkwardness of their conversation totally gets it. She's like,
Yeah,
Siona's like, you're not in school. Tomo's like, she's Quen, she has to work. And she's like, what do
yeah.
you do? And Kara's like, oh, I pick rats out of the drain pipes. And Siona's like,
She
and
doesn't
Tomo's
do.
like, she's joking. She pretends she dresses up as a boy so she can chimney sweep because it's safer than working in the textile industry. Which again, they throw
Should have
so
been the
many
red flag.
hints.
Yeah,
They throw so many hints at this, but we'll discover that later. Um,
yeah,
and so, like, all of that, like, she's just being like a punk child, which is all we've seen from her. We know she has a lot of anger. Then she disappears into the
yeah,
kitchen and comes back with the knife. Like, what?
yeah, yeah. And we're like, oh. And then Sciona lectures her in kind of a not so kind and very racist viewpoint. And Tom was like, I'm aware she tried to stab you. Not great. Don't talk to her that way.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, if I was someone, I'd be like, maybe this is why she wants to stab me. Like, that's it.
I do think Siona had that. I think she was like, right. Right. And then
Yeah.
she was like, wait,
She was like,
you told her that what blight is. No wonder she wants to stab me. I mean,
yeah, she's like, I
I
was going to
almost
stab.
threw
I did
myself
want to
out of
stab
the
me.
window, so you know.
She's like, come on. Something that I do think is interesting about all of that reaction and interaction, and she's like, Tom, well, you know, I would never intentionally kill somebody. I will state, she does directly omit and never ends up telling Tommel what she did with her
Well,
experiment.
that is fair. I think that she cannot. I think that's like
Yes.
she's transmuted that into the energy to go forward. That's just gone now. That energy is
Yeah,
like
I mean, I
the
think in her
plan.
mind it's not any directly different than anything else she's done, which fair enough. So like specifics maybe aren't important, but she's like, I would never intentionally harm somebody, and I'm like, and like Tom was like, of course I know that, and I'm like, oh, but you did.
She
Like
didn't
you weren't wrong with the intent to harm them.
intentionally she didn't
Yeah,
intentionally harm her. She did not believe that she was going to harm her in
it's true.
her defense. She did not, and as soon as it happened, she tried to stop it and she just couldn't.
That's true. Once she
So,
realized it was actually
yeah.
killing a person.
Yeah.
Um, but still, I was like, hmm. I mean, I wouldn't have told Tommel either. I don't think it would have been helpful
Definitely
or
not.
constructive and put more
It's
burden on him than necessary.
yeah.
But I was like, I did think it was interesting that she didn't tell him.
I
But
think it makes complete I didn't even think about that. I was just like, of course she didn't tell him.
mhm.
She also did, I mean, she had a legitimate breakdown.
She did. No, I mean,
So,
she feels remorse for her actions. I'm not saying that that
no, not in
isn't
that
a
way. I
legitimate
mean,
thing,
she had a
but
legitimate
yeah,
breakdown. I don't think that she wants to talk about it.
got you.
Yeah. Like I think she's like there
Yes,
is no use in talking about this. I'm just going to throw myself into another breakdown and also Tomil will not help me with what I need to do and I need him. So like I
yeah,
think that's she was like I definitely can't talk about it.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, but yeah. Interesting section. I don't
Yeah,
know if there's anything else. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
not necessarily. I mean, we already kind of talked about it a little bit, but the guard thing just kind of confirmed what we already knew, but it confirmed it for Sciona
Yeah,
because we saw it in the first chapter. Like we
we
saw that
did.
interaction.
We saw it. Yeah.
But confirming it for her, and it also explains why the Baker's family kind of wrapped up into the story and why they were introduced earlier, which was a very smart
It was.
writing
It
plot.
was.
But yeah,
Yeah. Especially because like you don't really think anything of it. I also like how
mm,
like none of it I mean, I like the distinct lack of romance in this book too. It would have been really I think it would have been really it would have taken so much away from this book if there
yeah.
was like any sort of romance. So, I
There's
like
something
there's
like I don't know
something
what it is.
between like Sayona and Tomo
Her and
have a
Tommel,
connection. Yeah. They have a
yes, and it feels
connection.
romantic. ish, but not really.
It does.
It's
And
odd.
it feels
Yeah.
romantic-ish on, like, from both of them. Like, he cares about
Yeah.
her a little bit differently than he cares about his niece, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. And, like, we all know that she's like, ooh, he's attractive. So there
Yeah.
is that.
Yeah.
But I like that it's like, it's again, it's like, it's just not the point. If, you
Yes.
know,
It's not the main focus. It's not even really a plot point. It's
yeah.
just there.
We're
That's it.
also, we read a lot of romance, so I think for us, it's also like we are seeing those signs. We see them. We see,
We are looking. We're looking for them.
we're
Yes.
looking
Yeah.
for
No.
them.
It's definitely.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, I do like the lack of romance in this in terms of like
Mhm.
I think we might get like a little bit more in the next few chapters. I don't remember how far it goes. Maybe it's just an embrace. I don't remember. But
It's not very far because I remember like when I first reading this, like waiting for it to
yeah,
see if it was ever going to come. And spoilers, it just doesn't.
it
And
just
you're like,
doesn't.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. But I didn't feel upset by the fact that it didn't, like,
No,
at all
I
by
was
any means. So
again, I was like actually happy that it didn't
yeah,
happen
I
because
agree.
that would have been absurd. I know that it's hard because they're trauma bonding, so of course there's gonna be feelings there, but it would really be a
Hmm.
shame if Tomel decided that he was in love with her. Honestly,
Yeah,
it
no,
would
I
be a
agree.
shame.
I liked the way that it was written and the way they went about it. It was nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
agreed.
What a shame.
What a shame he falls in love. God,
Gosh.
he can fall in love with someone else.
Yeah,
But
agreed.
yes, yeah,
Okay, well, I have a dear friend Leanne coming over for a Taylor Swift concert party. I
yeah,
keep calling it a party. It's just me and her, but it's
that's
a
party.
party. Um, and that is the reason that my wonderful, lovely, amazing husband is cleaning rather loudly in the background. You can't really be quiet when you're cleaning.
No, you cannot.
So I super appreciate him. He's the best. He's not even looking at me. It's fine.
It's not. He's
There's
like, I'm
that
focused. I'm cleaning.
smile. There's that smile. But so I have to go. I gotta go get all Taylor Swiftified because I don't know, maybe put some glitter on. Um and yeah, next week, chapters 16
16 through 18.
through 18. Yep.
16, 17, 18. Yeah.
16 through
Yes.
18. We'll let you know
Okay.
next week whether we're gonna just finish the book off on on one
Yeah.
episode or we're gonna stick with it because again, very meaty chapters here. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we'll see you guys next time. Chapters 16 through 18. I can count.
We
And
got there.
Colleen will be doing the chapter recap, possibly.
I absolutely can. Yeah, that's
Yay.
fine.
Great.
I can do that.
Sweet. All right, everyone. Bye.
Bye.